Hi folks, Wooden Boat Dan here. Just wanted to give you a heads up. The podcast you're about to listen to was recorded several years ago, so some of the phone numbers, email addresses, website links, and time-sensitive information are no longer valid. Please keep that in mind as you listen. If you'd like to contact me, my email address is woodenboatdan@gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the podcast. Welcome to Hooked on Wooden Boats, podcast episode number 136. I'm your host, Dan Matson, aka Wooden Boat Dan. If you can't do it, well, probably lots of people can. And this is the world's first podcast, that's right, the very first in the world, fully 110% dedicated, completely, fully immersed in the art, craft, history, tradition, and romance of wooden vessels around the world. Thanks for being on board the good ship Hooked on Wooden Boats today, folks. Great to have you. Yeah, I'm looking here at my computer screen and it says you shut down your computer because of a problem. If you want to open the applications that were open when you shut down, click here. Anyway, sorry about that. So yeah, I've got a fun time planned today as usual. There's an interview with Brant Lodge, who's a field trip coordinator down at the Center for Wooden Boats in Seattle. He's also a Native American and gets involved in Native American activities such as canoe carving and cultural events and things like that. So it was a really fun interview with Brant, so I'd encourage you to stick around for that. This past weekend, I attended the Pocket Yacht Palooza in Port Townsend, Washington on Saturday. Had a great time. I took my 12-foot canoe, Chelan. It's a sassafras canoe, but her name is Chelan. And showed her there and did a couple interviews, one with Josh Colvin, one with Marty Loken. And then actually I did 3 interviews and did one also with Colin Angus. And that's going to be a real fun one to listen to. I mean, they're all fun, but this one's unique. Colin's the only person to circumnavigate the globe by human power. So as in rowing across both oceans and then bicycling through countries including Siberia. And he uses wooden boats for his rowing, and he's got some of his own designs, and he sells some of those. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Today I was at Port Townsend, did an interview with Carol Hossey and Barb Traylor. And Carol has been involved with the Wooden Boat Festival in Port Townsend since it started in, I believe it was 1976. This is the 38th year, so you can do the math. Actually, I should be able to do the math. I'm an accountant, right? Anyway, 30... Yeah, so it would have been 76. Carol's been involved since the start. In fact, helped organize the first event, has been part of the Wooden Boat Foundation. So we got to talk about how the festival started, who was there, what happened, how it's evolved, and then Barb talked about the last few years, and especially this year, what's going to take place. So I'll be playing that in the next couple of weeks here, and so that's a lot of fun. So I had a great time in Port Townsend Day. It's always fun to go over there. Dropped in and saw some of my friends with Martha, Robert Darcy, and Tupper. I can't remember Tupper's last name, but anyway. And then I went over to Pygmy Kayak and saw Laura there, so it was a good time. So we've got a couple new subscribers to the podcast, Ken Sutherland and Josh Dalby. Actually, they subscribe not to the podcast, but to the e-newsletter that I send out occasionally. Used to be monthly, it's about bi-monthly now. So thanks for subscribing, and if you would like to subscribe to the free newsletter, it's an electronic newsletter, comes by email. You can go to hookedonwoodenboats.com/subscribe and provide your name and email address, and you're in and good to go. Well, next up for activities, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I'm getting my my dory ready to sell, so I'm painting and refinishing parts of her and getting her all spruced up. And working on that so that I can finish my scamp this winter, hopefully. The next Scamp Camp is August 11th through the 22nd in Port Townsend. I'm going to plan on being there, I believe, August 20th for the day. Hang out at the camp, do some interviews and some other fun stuff. And I'm not going to be able to make the Northwest School of Wooden Boat Building's rendezvous August 9th. Unfortunately, that's a really fun event. It's a lot of small boats there. They gather at the school on the beach there and have a barbecue, and it's a lot of fun. I've gone the last 2 years, actually, but I've got a family reunion to attend to. And I'm sad to say my friend Pete Leanhoutz has resigned as the executive director of the school. He was there for 2 years and did an awesome job, and now he's moving on to other things. So, Pete, if you're listening, I wish you the best in the future. Okay, we're going to move on to the interview now with Brant Lodge, who works at the Center for Wooden Boats in Seattle, Washington. So take it away, Brant. So it is June 3rd, 2014. I'm at the Center for Wooden Boats with Brant Lodge. Brant, welcome to the podcast today.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Brant, you're part of the education program here at the CWB, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, so tell me what you do.
You see, we run the field trip program here that involves a few different variations on the program. The main basis is an umiak ride in a traditional umiak, a skin-on wood frame type of a boat. So we get about 4,000 students a year that go out and paddle on that. And then the other half consists of either making a toy boat. There's another program where we make an even larger model boat, sailing boat, that's actually a functioning sailboat, so they can go out and try it on this model boat pond here. Mm-hmm. We also do a seaplanes one where they get to make a propeller and learn on the physics of your propeller and how the angles affect lift and takeoff and all that stuff. So we go out and paddle and get to look at some seaplanes in action. Mm-hmm. That's always fun. In the summertime, it gets really busy with the seaplanes out here.
Yeah, right.
We get another one on floating and kind of buoyancy. So we look through the dry dock, and we have a model dry dock, so we go over the kind of physics of that and how that works to repair boats and how it's really an advantage as compared to digging a trench type of dry dock. Mm-hmm. And so we paddle out there, and so that's a pretty far paddle. We mainly deal with kindergartners and preschools, but we get groups up to sixth grade or so.
Are they all from the Seattle area, pretty much?
Yeah, mainly the Seattle area. We get them as far as Bothell, Bellevue, but mainly downtown Seattle because our program is pretty early, so we got to work with the school timing.
So, Brant, let's back up here for a second. What's your background with boats, and where did you grow up, and how did you get interested in doing all this?
I never really had much boating in my background, specifically wooden boats. I grew up in Missoula, Montana for the most part, but a lot of the time I was out between Seattle here and the Spokane area. My father lived over there, and I have a lot of family in between that area and here, so I did spend a great deal of my time out here, and as I got older, I just kind of shifted out here. Mm-hmm. I think the larger number of people drew me out here, plus the jobs.
Yeah.
And about 4.5 to 5 years ago, I started learning under Sedut's Peel, the artist in residence here, Haida Master Carver.
You started learning what now?
Learning how to carve canoes under Sedut's.
Under Sedut's?
Yeah, the Haida Master Carver here. So I've been an apprentice. And so that's kind of been my foothold into the wooden boat type of area.
Yeah, so you've learned how to carve canoes, huh?
Mm-hmm. And in that
traditional way that they've been doing it for?
Yeah, we work for the most part with hand tools. We do use some chainsaw to cut it out and actually shape it out. Yeah. But even with a lot of the electric tools, there's still no tool that can beat the adze as far as digging out and that type of design. Yeah. And the adze is elbow adze is an ancient style of tool. It's 1,000 years old or so. Wow. And before they had metal, they would use shells, sharpened shells, clam shells, which wouldn't last quite so long. But then they would use obsidian or some different other stones to help out. Mm-hmm. So that tool hasn't really changed much in the design, and it's very effective. It's really good to teach the youth. Also, one of our programs is the Native Seattle. So again, we'll go out paddling, and we'll paddle to our canoe that's just about 200 yards away from the center here on the beach east of us, west of us. And we have a canoe up there we've been working on, so we'll paddle them over there, get to work on a piece of the canoe, and we try to get them to leave with a piece of the canoe to put a Ride a Dream on it or a hope and aspiration, something that they would aspire to be, and kind of keep it around a memento from the fact they got to take a chip out of a big log and make it into a canoe, through the process. And with that, it really gets to open the youth's eyes on something they can achieve with their hands. We're in a world today where a lot of things are in a screen in front of us, and so it's not really based on hard work with hands too much anymore. So to get the youth involved in something like that, it's bringing it back, and it gets to let them enjoy kind of a 3D type of a
something
project.
They can physically touch. Yeah. It's not on a computer screen or TV screen.
And so, between the carving there, and we've also developed a canoe family. So every year there's been a canoe journey going on since about 1989 with the Paddle to Seattle. There was, I think, about 5 canoes that got together, and they kind of reinvigorated the canoe culture that's been here on the ancestral highways of the Puget Sound. And so since then, they've had a canoe journey each year. There's been a meeting place they'll host, and then canoes will come from all around as far as Alaska and Canada up north. We've had a crew come up from California.
Wow.
And that was in one of the reservations from there. And they come up from the Columbia River Valley area. So they paddle up from there.
Native American canoes.
Yep. And so some of them even come down the Columbia River to come out to the coast and come up that way sometimes. So it's been a reinvigoration of the canoe culture.
So that's once a year you have that event?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we started out in 2011 on the paddle to Swinomish. And since then, we've been to Squaxin Island by Olympia. And so we start out from the Center for Wooden Boats. And then to Squaxin Island, that was a 100-mile paddle.
Wow.
And then last year, we went out to the coast of the Quinault Reservation, just north of Ocean Shores. So starting from here, that was about a 350-mile paddle.
So you paddled down the coast, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went up
open water.
Up the Puget Sound there towards Port Angeles, Port Townsend. Then we shifted to the Straits of Juan de Fuca, and there we got tossed and turned quite a bit. We actually capsized coming around the spit of where was it? Through Port Angeles, the Dungeness Spit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was really foggy morning. We've been having quite a bit of fog starting out early, like we do about 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning to catch the tide. And as I said, we're one of the smallest canoes there. We have a 21-foot canoe, the Stephen Phillips here, or the Ganook. And we didn't have any safety boats, so we were kind of going the traditional way, as we say. But they had a lot of safety boats going on with other canoes. So the way it works, you kind of just gather, join the convoy as it kind of goes past. And so, sooner or later, you got a big kind of camp moving along. So each canoe pretty much has a kind of a land gear, or what do we call it? Pretty much, land gear party. So they would take all of our equipment and stuff from stop to stop while our canoe was paddling on the water. And so, so quite a while we had a big,
and everything.
Yeah, we had a small camp there, a small city of tents, kind of moving from place to place.
Really?
So going on the journey, different tribe would host, because in the Puget Sound here we have lots of different tribes dotted all within the Puget Sound, and so it's really easy to have a tribe host and feed a lot of people, and not so easy, but it's for spotting wise in the area. It's not too far to go to find another tribe that'll be there and able to host. So they sometimes they're hosting about 100,000 people all going on this canoe journey. And so through this journey, we've got a lot of experience being on the water and just kind of taking the weather as it comes and the water, learning the different ways to navigate around the Puget Sound and the lakes here, and as well as out to the ocean. And I haven't really been on the ocean besides in the big ferry. I went up to Victoria, I believe about 10, 11 years ago as part of a field trip for school. And that was my only kind of trip on the ocean. My next time was in a canoe, 24-foot canoe, doing some landings in some surf and taking off in some surf, and that was quite an experience. Our little canoe got propelled quite a bit ahead coming in off of those waves. They would just push us pretty fast coming into the beach. And we made a big steering paddle that really helped us to keep our canoe straight. Because a lot of the big canoes that were coming in, they didn't have quite as big of a paddle, and so when that wave would push that the back of their canoe, it would generally go towards one side, and if they weren't able to quickly steer it, correct it, that next wave would come and kind of swamp them, capsize them.
Yeah.
So we came in, and we had a strong landing on one of our really rough parts. Big waves coming, pushing us in. And after they seen us going in, because they kind of advised not to go in because of the weather, it was starting to waves were starting to turn up a lot harder than they were expecting. So they kind of advised to keep going another 14 miles to the final destination of Quinault. And as I said, we didn't have a safety boat, so that would be another 14 miles we'd have to paddle. And we kind of talked amongst our crew, about 5 guys there, and we just decided, just go in, we'll face it. This is what we came here for. So we got our paddles in hand and just kind of went in. And I think after some canoes seen us going in, and they made that trip in, and some of them got swamped pretty early out there. So we got together, made a human chain, help them out, and I swam out there to help people. We had a couple of Coast Guards that were out there in survival suits, so they were nice and warm, able to help people over. But
were you in any kind of a suit?
That's just life jacket. We always wear a life jacket,
That's cold out there.
But it wasn't too bad. I like the ocean water. Is pretty good for me. I feel like I was kind of made for it, even though
really 55 degrees. Or
something. But they even got swamped in the small boat that they were in, the Coast Guard, helping people out. So they
was that last year?
Challenging. Yeah, that was last summer, and it was a lot of fun. But there were some hairy points, but that makes it part of the journey, I suppose.
So what are the size of the canoes?
The ones what they have, the Coast Salish, which is kind of the name that they gave to the majority of the tribes within the Puget Sound here. Yeah. They have their Salish style canoes, and they're about 30 to 40 feet in length, and about 2.5 feet wide. Mm-hmm. So nice and big for 2 people to go across, sometimes 3. Yeah. And they're really made to handle some pretty good waves out here. But then we also have some of the Haida style canoes, or the Tlingit, from up in the Alaska area, because they would take that trip down here from Alaska, and so they had those big ocean-going style canoes, and so those go up to about 50 feet. Wow. Sometimes the big war canoes, and even back then they would even get larger to bring big parties down, and they would have. Is
there any protection on those boats from the weather? Do they have?
Nope. They wear blankets. They have a blanket lifestyle with their also with their canoe culture. So it's They kind of dressed for it. But
are there sails on any of those boats?
Yeah, the older style Haida canoes did have big sails on them.
Really?
And that's something we've seen pictures of. We're trying to take a canoe that was already carved, a 46-foot canoe, and gifted to Sedutz's hometown of Heidelberg, because this year the canoe journey is out in Bella Bella. So that's Canada. That's about 900 miles paddle for us. And so seeing last year how our little canoe got tested in every way, we know the limits of that one, and we're sure we can't take that one up there. So we're trying to get that one down here, and with a smaller crew, we're working with a shorter time span to get ready. We want to convert it to put it a mast and make it sail. And Sedutz hasn't really seen a functioning one, but has heard a lot of stories and a lot of pictures, and talked to some of the elders. When he was a young man, talked to some of the elders, so now himself being an elder, wow. It's a lot of information, knowledge gained. So I think we're ready to do it.
Wow, that'd be pretty awesome, huh?
Some of the best to be able to put it in motion there.
So what species of log are they carving these boats out of typically?
Western red cedar.
Western red cedar.
Ideally, we'd love to get some of the old growth, but now we don't have quite the selection, and that's another message that we like to send to the youth and the young ones there, that to be able to have this beautiful wooden boat culture around. Not only just canoes, but wooden boats, period. You need to keep the supply around and keep the earth healthy enough to not only sustain the trees, but to sustain people to carve them. So we need to, keep protection of it. I feel like we're the protectors. We need to keep that message going. So this is a wonderful way to plant that seed into the minds of the young ones. Mm-hmm. So they get to see, some of the logs that we're working with now are some smaller logs to make some racing canoes out of, which is a new style we're trying to get into. It'd be really cool to get some of the youth involved in that. Not only is for around the community here, but also some of the native youth that don't really have, they're able to get to that, some kind of equipment, racing canoe. Mm-hmm. Being here in the urban setting, even though there are so many tribes around the Sound area. The city here, the rural, or the city urban area, kind of gets some of the natives lost and kind of disconnected from their culture.
Yeah.
So we're trying to bring that root system back, and something here downtown Seattle, so close to the downtown area. It's pretty unique, but it's pretty strong too to get it back in action. So we do use the Western Red Cedar. Is the old style. It's really light, but it's still strong, and it's soft enough to carve into. So using the old style tools, you can really see how it's able to.
So so you hand select the logs? You go out and look?
Oh no, actually we work on donations. So because we are part of a nonprofit with the Center for Wooden Boats. We run our group called Carver Cultural Connections, and so we're not in a big money area here. So we got to work with the people and get where we can.
Okay.
Where we can.
So let's say you get a big cedar log, and you guys carve it out. Mm-hmm. Then do you treat the wood with anything, or are you going to get some cracks in the grain?
But that's what we're working with now because, as I said, the beach location where we're carving right now, there is no awning or no shelter for the protection from the sun. So now with these hot days coming in, that log's getting pretty dried out. We try to keep it wet, but you can only do so much throughout the day and such. And so we've been really trying to get that going, but that's working through different groups of people as well, the United Indians of all tribes and Daybreak Star, as well as the parks and services out here, and then the Center for Wooden Boats. So it's kind of getting a lot of people in line and going with one common goal, and there's a lot of moving parts. So we're slowly but steadily getting some headway on that. So that's one of the challenges we face, is not only getting the logs and getting the work done on them, but having the right area and not only the tools and everything, but no shortage of manpower with a lot of volunteers and the young ones that come through with our programs.
So how long does it take to carve a canoe, if you know what you're doing?
It really varies depending on the canoe, the size of the log, but also with some of these trees that we're given, they have a lot more knot holes than you traditionally work with. And so with each knot hole comes another challenge that you have to come up with. And then also some of the logs we're working with have been sitting, after they've been cut down, been sitting for quite a while. And even though cedar is really rot-proof or rot-resistant more, it can start to get rotten after quite a while. And so we've had to deal with that. One of our latest canoes that I first started on took Sedut's over 5 years, and it was a big 36-foot canoe. And it had been gifted to Bernie Whitebear from the Daybreak Star Foundation, and it had been sitting almost 25 to 30 years, and so in that time the middle had gotten rotten. So we carved it. He'd shaped it all the way out, and it was just about ready to steam open, one of the final processes before finishing. And there was a big hole in the bow and a big hole in the stern, and so we had to fill in some plugs, kind of carve plugs to fill it in. So it was almost like a repair job as much as it was a carving of a building. So that was a pretty big challenge.
You were able to plug it and fix it, though, huh?
Yeah, we did multi-level stages of plugs, and that came out really nice. We gifted that in the Squally tribe.
Wow!
And that's a beautiful canoe. And so that one took just over 5 years. And big 36-foot canoe. That was quite a long time, but it had a lot of challenges that came with that one. So.
Do these have a sitting area in them, or are you sitting on the bottom, or?
We put in benches.
Benches in them.
So as I mentioned, with this steaming process, we use a few elements. So we use the elements to naturally widen the width of the log. So after we shape out the canoe shape, we'll fill it up with some salt water. Salt water gets into the wood a little bit more, and it starts to boil faster. So we take some lava rocks. We use lava rocks. They've already been tempered with the high heat from the volcanoes there, and we make a big bonfire. So we get started about 4 or 5 in the morning because it takes about 24 or 26 hours to get completed. And we get those rocks heated really red hot. We take a portion of them and put them inside that canoe, and we cover it. It'll start to get that water really hot, start to boil. And that time it loosens up the fibers within the wood. And we put some spreaders in, kind of like the seats. And so we gradually just kind of put them in there, set them in there, give them a little nudge, but we don't really kind of force them too much. And that wood will start to soften up and gradually open up wider. Sometimes it can open up as much as 1.5 feet.
Wow.
So it really, in a natural way, it takes and alters the shape of the canoe for the benefit. Because not only are you getting more width to sit in, but you're also getting more buoyancy, more of a bowl shape. Really nice for balancing in the water.
How much is a 32-foot canoe weigh carved?
I would imagine about 1,500 pounds.
Yeah.
We have our 21-foot canoe, and that weighs, I imagine, between 500 to 700 pounds.
Yeah. Very cool. So do you have a canoe yourself? Your own canoe?
Well, this racing canoe is one of the ones that I've been through the whole stages of carving. And so Sedut's kind of put that to me and said, we could do with this what you want to do. And so I wanted to get a racing canoe in this area, get a good youth team going, and not only part of our canoe family, but anyone that wants to get involved and learn those ways and get reestablished in them. Because I know we have Seattle. In the Seattle area, we have tribes from all around the world, all around the United States.
Yeah.
They gathered on the Seattle area, and so many from Alaska, and from not only from the Puget Sound. So I want to reintroduce some of those people to their traditions and their ways, and kind of get the young ones started, and whoever wants to be involved. So we open it up, and we call it Carving Cultural Connections, because it's not only limited to just us as Native people. We're all inhabiting this earth, so we all should share the knowledge and keep it going.
Yeah.
One way, if we want to be kind of selfish in that way, that's a good way to let a lot of information get lost through time. So, through Sedut's, I've been really mentored pretty well, learned a lot.
He's a local master carver?
Yep.
What tribe is he from?
Haida.
Haida?
Yep, Haida and a little bit Shimshian.
That's from the tribe, Haida?
Yep, from the Alaska area.
Oh, from Alaska.
Queen Charlotte Islands. So he's really been instrumental in kind of my growth here at the center. And through those 3 years of being a skipper in our canoe family, it's given me enough experience to come in and work with the youth here and get them out in that water in most Seattle conditions here. So you never know where we're going to have sun or rain or all in one day.
Yeah.
And I like to get them out as far as we can and get to see a little spot of nature that we have close to the Seattle area, downtown. We have a really great place where turtles come up and they rest on a log, just on that inlet that I was speaking of over here to the west of us.
Really?
At the center, yeah. They have about 5 turtles that come up at sometimes on really sunny days and will be resting on that log. So
cool.
When I tell kids, we need to get this introduction over, this paddling intro done so we can go out in the water, I tell them we go see some turtles. A lot of them are like, wow, I've never seen any turtles before, and no turtles that couldn't do martial arts or something.
Really?
So it's pretty cool to be able to introduce some young ones to something like that.
Yeah, very cool. Well, great. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Brant. Anything else you'd like to add to the podcast?
No, just Center for Wooden Boats is a great place to come get reintroduced or learn from new of the wooden boat culture we have here in Seattle. Yeah,
if somebody's listening that maybe is a teacher at a school and wants to bring their class down, how would they get that set up or inquire?
You could always visit cwb.org.
Okay.
Or you could come down. That's our best way to introduce people here. Come on down. Sundays, we have a free sale Sunday. So you don't find too many good activities around the city these days that are free. So Sunday, you see some good weather. Come down between 10 and 2. And you have an opportunity to come sign up for a ride on many of our sailboats, or we even have our umiaks available. Some skippers can take some people out on rides there.
Okay.
Do some paddling. So.
Very good. Well, thanks for your time today, Brant. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, take care, man.
My pleasure.
Okay. Thanks, Brant, for doing the interview. It was fun seeing your canoe that you're carving and chatting about what you're up to and what's happening at the Center for Wooden Boats and the canoe adventures you've been on. That's pretty awesome. So best to you in the future. I would appreciate it if you would connect with me if you've got some wooden boats or you're thinking about a boat or you want to build one or buy one or you've got one you're working on. Shoot me an email. Let me know what's going on. My email is dan@hookedonwoodenboats.com. You can leave a comment on the website, or you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest, and YouTube. Love to hear from you. And if you enjoy the podcast, I would appreciate it if you give me a review in iTunes. 5-star would be awesome. And if you buy stuff from Amazon, I would encourage you to click through my link before you make the purchase, and that way I get paid a small commission, which helps support the podcast, the cost of doing this. And that link is hookedonwoodenboats.com/Amazon. Thank you very much for doing that. Okay, it's been great chatting today again about wooden boats and having some fun with it. Keep the bright side up and the barnacled side down. Wooden boat Dan, over and out. God bless.